If you have any amount of credit card debt, then what we talk about in this video could actually change your life, a little bit for the better, or possibly for the worse, and I'll explain more on that in just a moment. But this is why President Trump is pushing for a 1-year 10% cap on credit card interest rates. That sounds like it's really good, and a lot of people had questions when I talked about this just a couple of days ago, but the questions they had and the concerns that even I had and many experts had as well is that banks are going to push back. How does President Trump get this approved? Well, I asked somebody, and I asked him, is this something that President Trump will do? And he said the president has been eyeing this type of relief for more than a year, so it is already expected that something is coming. It may not be a 10% cap though. This is where things get very interesting. One expert says the greater the amount of relief is, the more people will experience account closures and limitations will be implemented. Now, what does he mean? Well, here's what we know. Interest rates right now are between 20% and 30%. Bringing them down to 10% and capping them there is a problem for banks. The reason it's a problem for banks is because banks are using some of the interest that you pay in order to add to their revenue. Here's the issue. If banks can't count on all this interest from credit card debt and from your payments, here's what they're going to do. I reached out to another friend of mine and he said if we can't charge people and hit them with a 20% interest rate for their credit card and then we get capped at 10%, we would actually see a loss. He said based off his numbers alone at his bank they would have to increase their annual fees for credit cards. So instead of having those credit cards with no fees, they will have to charge an annual fee. I don't know what it's going to be, but they'd have to charge one. There would likely be an increase too. Said one of the things they discussed last year when this was first brought up by President Trump is that they were considering any additional card holder would be hit with a card holder fee. New fees are just going to come out of the woodwork. That's what's interesting. Oh, you need an additional card for your spouse? Well, that's going to be an additional whatever per month. It's not going to be a yearly fee, it's going to be per month. We'll give you a card, it's going to be $7 a month. They're going to keep tacking on these little increases here and there in order to make up their losses. Now this is why I bring this to your attention. If this happens, if we see cash advance fees, if we see additional late fees, over-limit fees, annual fees, whatever, if we see that doesn't just hurt the people with credit cards that have a lot of debt, this hurts every single card holder, including responsible card holders that pay their entire balance every single month. They would be hit with these additional fees as well, higher annual fees. And so for those more responsible or better card holders, they could actually cancel their cards as a result. And if the better card holders cancel their cards, it puts more pressure on the bank to cancel additional members in order to make up for that loss because that was a quality customer, never missed a payment, never had any issues. Now where could we go from here? Well, here's the problem. The Trump administration is going to need Congress in order to approve this unless he does an executive order based off of saying that the United States is in a state of emergency because we have an affordability crisis. But the Trump administration doesn't want to accept the fact and state that there's an affordability crisis. They don't want to do that. They want to fix the problem first and then later, potentially before the midterm elections in November, they will come out and say yep, there was an affordability problem but we fixed that, so there's nothing to worry about. With that said, the Trump administration cannot come out and say we have an affordability crisis and we need to lower this because that is a state of emergency. So this is why, according to experts, the Trump administration is likely going to need Congress to pass this.